Let's rewind to a time when Israel and Iran were, believe it or not just neighbors in the region, but actual partners on the world stage. It might sound impossible today, but their relationship was once defined by cooperation, not conflict. Before 1979, Iran under the Shah was one of the first Muslim-majority countries to recognize Israel. This was a bold move, considering the political climate of the Middle East at the time, where most nations refused to even acknowledge Israel's existence. The two countries traded Iranian oil for Israeli technology and military expertise. Their cooperation was open, strategic, and aimed at counterbalancing the influence of powerful Arab neighbors who opposed both regimes. It was a pragmatic alliance, two isolated states finding common cause in a region where they both felt threatened and alone. Their leaders met frequently, and their intelligence agencies even shared information. Israeli advisors worked openly in Tehran, helping modernize Iran's military and infrastructure. Iranian oil flowed steadily to Tel Aviv, fueling Israel's economy. Both countries viewed the rise of pan-Arab nationalism as a direct threat to their survival. The idea of Iran as Israel's top enemy would have seemed absurd back then. In fact, many in both countries saw the partnership as essential for their security and prosperity. But this partnership was built on a fragile foundation, a pro-Western monarchy in Iran, led by the Shah, whose rule was increasingly unpopular at home. When the Shah fell in 1979, swept away by a wave of revolution, the alliance collapsed almost overnight. The revolution that followed didn't just end the friendship, it obliterated it. Anti-Israel sentiment became a core part of the new regime's identity. The Middle East's alliances shifted overnight, setting the stage for decades of hostility, suspicion, and proxy conflicts that still shape the region today. And that's how two former friends became bitter rivals, with the world now watching their every move, wondering if history could ever repeat itself, or if the rift is now too deep to heal. Everything changed in 1979 with the Iranian Revolution. The Shah was ousted, replaced by Ayatollah Khomeini's Islamic Republic, a regime fiercely anti-Western and anti-Israel. Iran cut all ties, handed Israel's embassy to the PLO, and branded Israel the Little Satan. Hostility toward Israel became a core part of Iran's new identity, rooted in ideology, not just politics. Israel was now seen as an illegitimate imperialist outpost, an existential enemy. The conflict shifted from a pragmatic partnership to a holy war, with compromise nearly impossible. Oil stopped, cooperation ended, and the two nations became locked in a zero-sum confrontation. The buddy cop era was over, a dark ideological rivalry had begun. Now the nuclear issue. For Israel, Iran's nuclear ambitions are an existential threat. Israeli leaders have drawn a hard red line: no nuclear Iran, no exceptions. This fear has fueled years of covert sabotage, like the Stuxnet cyber attack that crippled Iran's centrifuges. Assassinations and mysterious explosions followed, all aimed at slowing Iran's progress. But as of June 2025, Iran is enriching uranium to 60%, dangerously close to weapons grade. Israel's anxiety has boiled over into open military strikes. A nuclear-armed Iran would shift the region's balance, emboldening Iran's proxies and raising the risk of nuclear crisis. The shadow war is now out in the open. The world faces the real possibility of a direct military clash to stop Iran's nuclear program. The Israel-Iran conflict has mostly played out through proxies, not direct battles. Iran's axis of resistance, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, Houthis in Yemen, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, are its tools to pressure Israel. Iran arms, funds, and trains these groups, encircling Israel and keeping the fight at arm's length. Israel responds with relentless airstrikes, especially in Syria, to disrupt Iranian arms transfers. This shadow war has kept both homelands mostly out of direct conflict, until now. But as attacks grow bolder, the risk of miscalculation rises. The buffer is fading, and the shadow war is turning dangerously real. The region is now closer than ever to direct confrontation. For years, Israel and Iran avoided direct attacks on each other's soil. That changed in 2024, when Israel struck an Iranian consulate in Syria, killing top generals. Iran retaliated with a historic missile and drone barrage on Israel, breaking a decades-old taboo. The psychological barrier was shattered. Direct conflict was now on the table. In June 2025, after new nuclear tensions, Israel openly struck Iranian missile sites. This wasn't covert. It was a public act of war. The old rules are gone. Each attack now demands a response, fueling a dangerous cycle of escalation. The proxy buffer has vanished. Two powerful nations are now trading blows directly. The world is left wondering if all-out war can be avoided. You might think this is a distant problem, unfolding far away from your daily life, but a war in the Middle East can hit everyone, no matter where you live. The effects ripple outwards, crossing borders and continents, reaching right into your neighborhood, and even your home. The impact is especially clear when you look at your wallet. About a quarter of the world's oil supply passes through the narrow Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world. If conflict erupts and Iran threatens to block this route, even briefly, oil prices can skyrocket overnight. This isn't just a headline, it's something you'll feel at the gas pump and in your monthly expenses. Higher oil prices mean higher costs for fuel, food, and goods everywhere. Transportation gets more expensive, and those costs trickle down to everything you buy. For countries like India, which relies on imports for most of its oil, the stakes are even higher. The country faces not just pricier fuel, but a chain reaction that affects the entire economy. This means higher inflation, more expensive loans, and a squeeze on household budgets. Everyday essentials become harder to afford, and families feel the pinch. Global shipping is also at risk. Houthi attacks in the Red Sea have already disrupted trade, causing delays and uncertainty. If the conflict widens, shipping could slow even more, driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. Prices on everything from electronics to clothing can rise, and shortages may appear on store shelves. Inflation spikes, economic growth slows, and your cost of living jumps. Even a missile strike thousands of miles away can hit your home budget, making it harder to make ends meet. The economic shockwaves are global and immediate, reminding us that in today's world, no crisis is truly far away. The stakes of this conflict go far beyond economics or regional politics. What happens in the Middle East has a way of sending shockwaves across the entire globe, touching lives in ways most people never expect. A full-scale Israel-Iran war could draw in the US, Russia, and China, risking a global superpower showdown. The involvement of these nations would escalate tensions to levels not seen in decades, raising the specter of direct confrontation between nuclear-armed states. Refugee crises, humanitarian disasters, and market crashes would follow, affecting everyone. Millions could be displaced, overwhelming neighboring countries and aid organizations, while global financial markets would reel from the uncertainty. Air travel would be disrupted, and global markets would tumble. Everyday life, from the price of fuel to the safety of international travel, could change overnight. No country is immune from the fallout of a Middle East war. The ripple effects would reach every continent, impacting economies, security, and even the sense of stability in distant communities. This conflict is rooted in decades of history, ideology, and security fears. There are no easy answers. The region's past is filled with unresolved grievances and deep mistrust, making solutions elusive. As of June 2025, nuclear talks are stalled, Israel is preparing for major strikes, and Iran is vowing retaliation. The world watches as the possibility of escalation grows with each passing day. The world is on edge, and what happens next will shape all our lives. People everywhere are glued to the news, anxious about what tomorrow might bring. Stay informed, because what happens in the Middle East never stays in the Middle East. Its impact is felt in boardrooms, homes, and streets around the world. The next chapter is being written right now, and its outcome will echo for generations to come.